High on Education, our first show of this new decade, 2020. I'm Ed Lecius, your host, and as we embark on a new decade, we are also embarking on a new era and time for the Nashua High Hall of Fame. Joining me with today's program is Lisa Gingras, Athletic Director for Nashua High, and it's been her dream, her vision, that after almost 2 decades, that this great program be revived. And today we'll talk about how it all came to be. Lisa, welcome to High on Education.
Hi, Ed. Thank you for having me.
So it's been almost 20 years since the last induction into the Nashua High Hall of Fame. You came here, and that was one of the things on your to-do list.
Yes.
And it was high on the list, but it didn't come easy only because of the time needed to get it put together to be done in an appropriate manner.
Yep.
Walk us through the early steps, and we'll eventually get to where we are today.
Sure. So coming into this position in 2013, as most people know, there was a lot of turnover between Al Harrington and myself. There were 8 different athletic directors in that 12-year period. So the Hall of Fame existed, and there were 10 inductions between 1991 and November of 2000. So there were 107 people inducted during that time period, and no one really knows why and how it fell apart. In talking to some of the people involved in it the first time, it just seemed to be a combination of things, with Al's retirement, with the Friends of Nashua High Athletic disbanding a few years later, with North and South splitting. Like, nobody really points to one thing or another, just a lot of the pieces together. So there has been no Hall of Fame inductions, no new inductions between November of 2000 and what will be the 11th induction in May of 2020. During that time period, obviously, the 107 members still are in the Hall of Fame. There's always been a National Hall of Fame, but there were no displays anywhere in the city, in neither high school, nowhere that even when we started bringing it back, people didn't even realize that we had a Hall of Fame. So the process started July of 2018. I called a couple of people from the original committee, yourself included, and we sat down and we had a conversation. You know, it all started there. After 5 years in the position, I felt, okay, things are running smoothly. It's time to take this on. It's something that people had spoken to me about several times, about bringing it back, about doing something with it, even so much as putting up a display of the 107 people that were already inducted. So in July, we met, you, myself, and George Tebbets from the original committee, and just talked about those 10 years and how did people get in, who decided who got in, what was the criteria and things like that. And it became pretty apparent that the first thing we need to do, especially in 2020, is formalizing everything. So that fall, we sat down. I had done a lot of research between our meeting and convening a committee and starting to put together a constitution. What would our Hall of Fame look like? What's the purpose of our Hall of Fame? What's the criteria? What are the categories for inductions? What's the selection process? What's the nomination process? How often do we want to do this? So it took us, I think, from our initial meeting in September through March of 2019 to finalize that Constitution. And the Constitution was adopted in March of 2019. It was signed. It's all public. It's on file on our 2 websites, so it can be viewed so everybody knows what's going on. And then we opened up nominations in April for the 11th induction.
And I think the point that you stressed from the beginning is that it was going to be a Nashua High Hall of Fame.
Yes.
It's not going to be a Nashua South or a Nashua North, but Nashua High.
Yes.
And the second point, and you've alluded to it, those in the original classes were not to be forgotten.
Correct.
And if anyone goes into either the North or South gymnasium, if they look real careful, they will see a display
Yes.
of the previous inductees under the banner Nashua High Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And I think that's pretty significant, because I know some of them felt that they were lost with
Yes.
with the separation and transition to 2 high schools, and you've gone out of your way, along with the committee, to make sure that that happened.
Yeah, that was really important because we didn't want to lose our history. I think those of us from Nashua who went to Nashua Senior High School, who have already been previously inducted, some people consider themselves part of South. Sometimes you'll even hear some people, who graduated long before the split. They'll say, I graduated from Nashua South, and sometimes I'll push back. I'm like, no, you didn't. You didn't graduate from South. You graduated from Nashua High. Obviously with South retaining the Purple Panthers, I think people feel that connection, but yet we can't forget about Nashua North. Nashua North is as much of our community as any of the high schools. And I think it's a shame that the history in the banners that are in Nashua South aren't replicated in Nashua North, maybe even in their Titan blue and navy blue, because the athletic history of Nashua Senior High School is as much Nashua North's history as it is Nashua South's history. So it is one Hall of Fame. It's the Nashua Athletics Hall of Fame. In each high school right now, we have, as you stated, the banner. And there is a plaque, one from each of the 10 inductions, and with the group photo and each individual's name. So in both of they're just out in the lobbies, just outside of the gyms. So that was a big feat, even just to get the displays put up there. And the way we hung them, we purposely did it so that it will still be symmetric and still look good when we get our 11th plaque up there in May.
So yes, a lot of thought and planning went into this.
Yes.
You asked for submissions back in April, and then your committee went to work to pare them down.
Yes.
With no set number in mind, other than not to try to recapture 20 years all at once, but also to have it balanced and have a flavor to it that will continue in the steep tradition which began 20 years ago.
Right. Our Constitution does specify that no more than 10 will be inducted in any one year. And part of that is the fact that we don't want to water down the Hall of Fame. We want it to be special. We want it to be truly those exceptional student athletes, coaches, contributors, teams that have impacted our whole program. So we put it at 10. And for this first induction, we did take a vote and override that for this induction because we are inducting 11. But it was really hard this first time with the nominations that came in to pare them down to, at this point in time, knowing it's been 20 years, who is really the most worthy at this point in time. So we felt we had a good discussion, a good healthy discussion. There were some disagreements about different nominations and why should we accept them versus not accepting them. We pared it down, and we are proud of the 11 that we've selected at this point. The inductions will only take place once every other year, so the inductions will be in even years, simply because of the amount of work involved in taking nominations and meeting to make the selections and planning the reception and things like that. So anybody who was nominated that has not been inducted, will not be inducted in May, their nomination is automatically reconsidered for the next 3 cycles. So the next 6 years, they'll be reconsidered. So anybody who nominated somebody, they can feel free to beef up the nomination if they feel that will help. And in some cases, it wasn't even the merits of the nomination. It was more, well, this person compared to this person. Because, it doesn't make sense to induct 25, 30, 40 people in any one given year. A lot of people, I did a lot of research between high schools and colleges and even professionals, and some people thought 10 was a lot. Some years you may only see 4 or 5 inducted into a Hall of Fame. So, but knowing we've got history, you referenced the 19 years in the middle, but we also have history going back to the start of Nashua Senior High Schools to begin with. Is there anyone along the way that was missed, even during those 10 years, even though they did those inductions? Were there people missed during that time frame, not just the 19 years since then? So I think we've captured some of those people.
And a lot of time and effort was put into going through the nomination forms. Several meetings were held, and as you say, there was good give and take and discussion. And there were some people who knew a little bit more about person A
Yes.
versus person B and things like that. And I think it all worked out well.
I agree.
Who are the committee members?
Who are the committee members? So the representation, we have obviously myself, you, Ed is actually the assistant chair of the committee, the 2 high school principals, the 2 athletic coordinators at the 2 high schools. We have a longtime coach. George Tebbets is a member, pulling in, connecting from previous. My 2 secretaries are involved. I'm thinking a former coach. I think that touches about everybody. We've had
Tom King.
Tom King from the Telegraph. So we've had 11 people consistently being involved and being at meetings, being part of the discussions. We have also spoken to other people outside that circle in getting advice and, at the early stages of bringing it back to begin with. But the selection was a smaller group of the full committee.
And the winners are?
The winners, do you want me to go through the little
if you
bulletin
would,
points?
let folks know who are watching
Yep,
us.
sure. So we did release the press release last week to a variety of different news outlets. The press release is also available on our websites. So we have, the first person is a contributor, a very long-time contributor to Nashua Athletics, and that's Mr. Al Savage. Al has helped found the New Hampshire Decathlon in 1957. He founded the Elks Crusaders in 69, the New Hampshire Girls Heptathlon in 77. He's an active member of the Nashua Elks, and he's been involved in the decathlon and heptathlon banquets since their inception. And that's only 5 short little bullet points of what Al's done for youth sports in our community. So Al's a great contributor, and we look very much forward to honoring him.
And also a pretty decent football player for Buzz at the high school.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Our next person is a contributor as well. He's a contributor as well as a student athlete. Mr. Farley Gates, many of you may know and recognize that name. Farley graduated in 1981 from Nashua Senior High. He was a member of the 1980 Class L Championship basketball team, receiving several accolades, earned a basketball scholarship to the University of San Francisco. So that speaks a lot of his athletic piece. He was a tournament director for our Chick-fil-A holiday tournament for several years and really took that to the next level in terms of signage and things like that. He's a constant supporter of any athletic programs that we have. Anytime we need, some signs or some posters or things like that, Farley always is a great help with that. And he's a resident and a business owner here in Nashua. So he's really well connected to the community.
And for those who remember that infamous Christmas tournament with
Yes.
Cambridge Rindge and Latin,
Yes.
there were many felt that Farley outplayed a guy by the name of Patrick Ewing.
Yes,
So,
definitely. How many people can claim that they beat an NBA player? So next we have one coach being inducted in May, and that is Mr. Bob DeMello. Unfortunately, Bob has passed away, but his wife Kathy will be there to receive this in his honor. Bob began his coaching career in Illinois. He coached football at Nashua Public Senior High in the late 70s, early 80s, and then he also did a 3-year stint return at Bishop Girton in early 2000. He was the head coach for winter and spring track teams from 83 to 97, winning 10 state championships between both of those seasons.
He also did play-by-play color with me for the high school football games.
Yes, he did.
WSMN and then WMVU.
Yep, definitely. And he also taught phys ed and health at Fairgrounds Junior High School at some point. So, again, unfortunately, Bob passed at a young age, but
He did,
we will still be,
unfortunately, yes.
yeah, we will be honoring him. The rest are all athletes. So we'll go in order of age, I guess. The next is also a gentleman who has passed. His name is Mark Russell. He's a 1966 graduate of Nashua Senior High School. And he excelled in football, baseball, winter track, and basketball, playing for a lot of our notable coaches. When reading his nomination, I mean, everything in his nomination were names you knew, coaches he played for. After high school, he played football and ran track for Bordenton Military Academy, and then continued playing football at UMass.
Tough, hard-nosed kid, and the thing I always remember about Mark is his chipped front tooth.
Yes.
And he got that in a football game, and to him that was his badge of courage. So.
Right. Right.
Great athlete.
Right. The next student athlete is also most noted for his football career, and that is eYe. EYe graduated in '97 from Nashua Senior High School. He also participated in football as well as track. He went on to play football at UMass, then professionally for 2 years for both the Patriots and St. Louis Rams, even earning a Super Bowl ring. And he is a member of the UMass Hall of Fame. Next student athlete is a cross country and track athlete, Amy Rustin. She's a '99 graduate, of Nashua Senior High, and she continued both cross country and track at Lehman University in New York, I believe, and holds several school and state records still to this day.
Amy lived up the street from us, and no matter what time of day or early evening, you'd see her running to the house, from the house,
Yep.
always pushing herself, and it's great that someone like her is being recognized.
Yep, definitely. And then the next four athletes are North or South athletes. So at this point, we've moved past the split. So John Schroeder is a 2006 graduate of Nashua High School North. He's a distance runner for cross country, indoor and outdoor, has several Class L and state champions, both as a team and as individual, and probably one of the most decorated track athletes to come out of recent high school history here in Nashua. The next is also a North graduate, Kendall Reyes, 2007 graduate, played football in high school, played at UConn, as well as professionally for the Chargers, the Redskins, and the Chiefs. And he is currently coaching at UNH. And often you'll see Kendall around the area giving back to the Nashua community. He does a big field day in the spring.
Yes,
for,
he has
for
a youth
students.
foundation, and he
Yes.
does it with PAL and the Boys and Girls Club. And
Yep.
Great guy, and very appreciative of having the opportunity to be at UNH right now.
Exactly, exactly. The final North candidate inductee is a 2008 graduate, and that is Brad Zapenis. Brad is most known for playing baseball, but he did also play football and basketball. In 2008, he was the New Hampshire Gatorade Player of the Year, and he continued his baseball career at Boston College and played professionally for the Cubs. And you can often see Brad around as well. We see him quite frequently officiating our basketball games, so he is also still involved in the community. And then last but not least, our 11th inductee is a 2014 graduate of Nashua South, and that is Trevor Knight. Trevor was a 12-season athlete competing in football, basketball, and track. He was the 2013-14 New Hampshire Gatorade Player of the Year for football, earned a scholarship and played 4 years at UNH, and is currently playing professionally for the Canadian Football League in Winnipeg. So that's our 11 for this year. It was really tough decisions to come down to this 11, but we also felt it was important after the big gap to make sure we had representation from some new, some old, from North, from South, from the original high school, coaches, contributors. So the only group category that we missed this year were teams, and we just felt that at this point these individuals were more worthy at this point in time. Doesn't mean that those teams don't have a shot in the future, but at this point, that's where we're at.
Well, it's certainly an outstanding list, and yes, a lot of time and effort did go into reviewing and culling the nominations, and there was good give and take across the table from those who knew or didn't know. Right. The young man, the track, John, he just slipped onto my radar. His name was not familiar with me, but then when you had people that knew him or had coached him and telling you just what he had accomplished, you know, it made him worthy.
Right.
And it was hard to go against, if you will. The only delineation, other than it's the Nashua High Athletics Hall of Fame,
Yes.
will be the awards.
Yes.
Tell our viewers how that's going to work.
So we had decided on, we went back and forth for quite a bit on what are we going to do? What are we going to give people? In the previous 10 years, people were given watches, but so many people aren't wearing traditional watches. They're wearing smart watches, or they're not wearing watches at all. So went round and round. We didn't want to, do some big trophy because, as an adult, what do you do with a trophy? So we decided on a glass plaque glass paperweight, depending on how you think about it. And our logo will be on it, the person's name, and there will be some color on the logo, either purple, original high school or South, navy blue if they are from North, or black if they are all of Nashua and contribute equally to North and South. So that will be the slight distinction.
May 9th,
May 9th.
the Courtyard by Marriott.
Yes.
And tickets are available now?
Yes. So tickets to the reception are available now. Our ticket form can be found at the Hall of Fame page on both the North and South Athletic websites, NashuaNorthAthletics.com or NashuaSouthAthletics.com. And tickets are $35 per person. We settled on an afternoon hors d'oeuvre reception at the Courtyard. That was also a big discussion. You know, do we have it at school? Do we have it, you know, do you have it at North? Do you have it at South? Do you have it in the Keefe Auditorium? What do we do? And there was some compromise there. Some people felt it was important to have something like this off-site. So we are doing an afternoon reception. The reception will start around noon at the Marriott. So there'll be a little bit of a mingling portion for, you know, maybe an hour, and then the induction itself will start right about 1 o'clock.
All previous 107
yes.
who are with us have been invited?
Yes, all previous 107 are invited to attend. We are in the process of gathering all that contact information so they can be invited personally.
Yeah, we didn't have computers and emails back in those days.
Right, so we're tracking that down. So they're all invited. The inductees have been invited at this point, and anyone else wishing to join us, we'd love. I believe the capacity of the room we have is about 350 people, so we would love to be at capacity. So anybody interested, feel free, dig up that ticket form online and contact us. In addition to the afternoon reception, we are also going to recognize the inductees the night before. The night before is the North-South baseball game. So we've invited the inductees to be introduced prior to the game and throughout the first pitch at that night. So kind of make it another opportunity for them to be recognized.
Well, it's coming back with a big bang, big splash.
It is. We are trying. We really are trying.
And kudos to you for pursuing this, because
Thank you.
Obviously your job, you almost have to be superhuman. Between all the different athletic teams in the two schools that you have to oversee, and schedules, buses, coaches, officials, it really took some effort on your part to do the research that you did. I mean, I remember when George and I met with you in July that year, you had all kinds of papers and data on who's doing what and how they're doing it and why they're doing it this way. And I think that set it off on a good start and good footing. So.
Well, thank you. The only reason I'm able to do this is because of the team and the people that I have that work with me. They definitely, things, as I said, after 7 years now, things are moving along. Things are flowing smoothly. So I don't have any free time, that's for sure. But it was time to take something on like this. Time to make this big impact back to the city.
And if there was any missing piece, I'm thinking this was probably it, and now that's checked that one off too. So yes. May 9th, Courtyard by Marriott. Tickets are available at the Nashua High South, Nashua High North athletic pages, and tickets are $35. And come out and be a part of this history-making event on May the 9th.
It'd be great.
Lisa Gingras, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you for having me, Ed.
You've been watching Eye on Education, and our guest today has been National Athletic Director Lisa Gingras. Thank you all for watching. Be safe, and we'll see you next time.